Welcome back to Montferrat for what may be the penultimate episode, or maybe even the final one. We're still working down the path of unification for the HRE, as we discussed last time. We're on our fourth comfort policy, so we just need one more, and then the HRE can be unified. I'm sure everyone will be very happy about that. For now, we're just building a spy network on Tunis, and then we'll strike them and bring North Africa back into the Roman fold, and also take the few bits of land they control that are in Italy. One thing I do want to do right now is switch out my parliament. We've got the default estate parliament, but we just researched the autocratic and constitutional parliaments. The autocratic one is quite good. It gives you 25% crown power, but I feel crown power, it's less valuable, really, when compared to other things. Since my estates are all paying close to 100% tax, more crown power doesn't really make much of a difference, and it's not like we need more money. So instead, I much prefer the constitutional parliament. Not only does it make every estate happy by 5, but it also reduces the cost of passing the extra options in a parliament by 25%, meaning it's very easy to grab the things like request extra taxes or change a law. In fact, if you combine this with other modifiers that can reduce the requests, you can make them very cheap on your parliament support to pick those options. So we're going to pass this. It's going to cost us a lot of legitimacy, and it'll take a little while for us to tick back up. So we'll bring down our cost of court spending for a little bit. It's not like it's a huge deal. I would normally slap the clergy for the legitimacy, but I already did that. So we'll need to wait a little bit before we can do it again. But it really is no matter, right? Here's our next parliament. As you can see, as I said, it's only 25% of our parliamentary support to actually change or click these options now, which is very nice. There's our CB on Tunis, so I think we'll just attack them immediately. There's no reason to delay. Egypt is, of course, in this war. I'd like to defeat Egypt and force them to break their alliance with Tunis so I can eat into them separately without Tunis's involvement. We'll see how things go. We'll also see if Morocco is really a threat. It's hard to say. The North Africans do have lots of light cavalry armies, so we'll see how threatening they are to the glory of Rome. Somehow, I don't have much faith in their ability to oppose us. We also have our 1,000 strong heavy ship navy. I'm a little hesitant to deploy them though. It's not like we really need them in this fight against Tunis, so I prefer to preserve them instead of taking any risks. Right, we're going to make peace with Egypt. I was thinking I would just have them annul their alliance with Tunis, but my greed has grown too great. So we're also going to take as much of their land as possible. This will mean the only bits of land they control that are considered part of Rome is this bit here, which surely we should be able to take in the next war with them without any problem. Let me just take all of it now and see what the overall cost is. It honestly looks pretty fine, 199 war score, so next war we should be able to take everything. We'll of course have them annul their alliance with Tunis though, or do we need to? If we're planning to just fully eat that bit of land, maybe we don't need to. The question is, could we take any more? We couldn't take a whole, well, I guess we could take this one. It wouldn't have a connection to our land though, so I'm a little hesitant to just grab a random piece of territory in the middle of nowhere. Instead, let's actually prioritize grabbing forts, just because it will make it a little easier next time around. I guess we'll go with that. Goodbye, mamluks. They still exist, of course, but in a much lesser state than they did a moment ago. Now, Tunis. We've nearly full occupied them, just a few places left to take. Morocco is going to be this. Maybe we should just go crazy, actually. Maybe we should just go crazy and take everyone's land. Who's going to take offense? Not really anyone who matters, right? But we could just take all the land. Maybe not all the land, but we could take a bite like that out of them. My greed, I feel like it's just growing out of control. But is there any reason for it not to? I don't think so. Why shouldn't I just eat their whole country? Why shouldn't I eat their allies? Who exactly is gonna stop me? I doubt the HRE members take offense for me taking their land. Although maybe, I don't think this 35 antagonism we have with France is due to us taking land from the Mamluks. I really doubt they care. So if there's no reason not to, we should just eat them. I suppose we'll see. We'll let ourselves go crazy. If it turns out to be bad, we'll just have to deal with the consequences. And if it turns out to be good, we'll enjoy the consequences. Sounds like a good plan to me. We may end up with a bit of a revolt from the Sunnis, though I guess we could just pay them off. Let's pay them off right now. It's going to cost a bit of money, but money is not something that we really have a lack of. And there we go. The Moroccans, well, actually, it's actually cheaper for us to occupy land now that we've occupied this fort. These forts, we could go a little further, couldn't we? Let's keep fighting a little bit then. And there we go. We'll take this massive bite out of Morocco. And now Tunis. Well, the one thing we want to do is connect our Moroccan territory that we've taken to our territory. Otherwise, our soldiers there will be stranded. But it's going to be too expensive, I think, to take Or then, yeah, it is too expensive for us to take this and take... I guess we could take just the tip of Italy here, but the tip of Italy isn't actually in the HRE, so it doesn't quite matter as much. Unfortunately, we can't force them to capitulate because we'd need to occupy everything. I guess we could just sail over and occupy the territories, but I'm just a little too lazy. So we'll take this, we'll cut a nice slash through Tunis, and surely next time will be the time where we fully absorb them. Now let's see if there's any consequences from us taking such vast swathes of territory. We've now got enough imperial authority that we can pass the first of the 2 laws we need to get the final comfort policy. We can limit the electors. This means 1 prince elector and 1 archbishop elector will lose their seats. I'm not sure how the game decides which one loses it. Maybe it's based on how strong they are. It doesn't really matter though. It's unlikely we'll ever lose the emperorship, whether there's 100 electors or 1. So we'll just pass this. I'm curious to see which elector is going to be the one that vanishes though. So I may nip back just before the vote ends so I can watch and see who vanishes from the world. Well, not from the world, you know what I mean. The one that loses their cushy elector job and has to get a real job elsewhere. Oh, we just became naval hegemony. What happened to France's navy? Looks like they've been reduced. They're at war? No. Did they just decide to disband them maybe? How odd. Oh well, I guess we're naval hegemony now. I didn't really want to be naval hegemony because remember, every hegemony we take reduces our relationships with people by an extra 20. And we of course want to keep our relationships as high as possible in order to unify the HRE, but it's a little out of our hands if we're just going to be given the hegemonies. All right, we're about to pass limited electors. Here are our 7 electors. Bohemia, Brandenburg, the Rhine, the guys who should really be Saxony at this point, Trier, Cologne, and of course Mainz. One that is a prince elector and one that is a archbishop elector. So one of these and one of these. Let's see who goes. And the answer is, it looks like it was Trier and the Rhine that both lost their position. I'm not sure what the criteria is. It might just be totally random, or it could be based on size and strength. The Rhine is definitely the smallest elector after all amongst the princes, and Trier is the smallest amongst the archbishop. So it may just be as simple as that. All right, let's go to war with Hungary again. This might be the final war with Hungary, maybe? It's hard to say. I think we're going to leave them with a little bit of territory they have in Lithuania. Nah, it's definitely not going to be the final war. It should be the war before the final war though, I think. Let's just bite into them. Should be a very quick conflict. They are allied with Poland, so we could take some Polish land, but I think that's a little way too greedy, right? It was different with the African nations because Europeans don't really care about us taking their land, but we really don't want to overbite into European territory and rack up massive amounts of antagonism there. For now, once we do unify the HRE, there'd be no reason why we couldn't just conquer everyone, because relationships literally won't matter after that point. And there we go, a very quick war. It only lasted as long as it did, which was about a year because of the presence of Poland. We'll just eat into the Hungarians as usual, which brings us to our next war with Spain. We'll head over straight away. Again, no reason to really delay. We're still waiting on Granada to add its land to the HRE so that we can finally release Portugal. I'm not sure why they've taken so long to do so, but they have. They've taken long enough that I've decided to... Well, actually, no, it looks like I've already cored the area I needed to core. This is perfect. Let's just go on then and release Portugal. I'm assuming Portugal's going to have its capital in Lisbon when I release them. It's always a risk though, so let's try and add every location they do have a core on to the HRE before we release them, just in case. We'll also do the same with Galicia because we want to release them as well, of course. I'd like my Spain to be nice and vibrant, filled with nations, but not filled with Spain, obviously. One of the things we could do when adding all these locations to the HRE is we can actually choose where a vassal has its capital now. There's an action once a vassal has been released that lets you move the capital. So even if we release the nation and its capital isn't in the right place, we can always force them to move it to a location that is within the HRE, as long as they control a province in the HRE, obviously. I do wish Paradox would spare me from having to do this for each individual location though. Just give me some sort of add all button or something like that, please. All right, so let's release Galicia, release them as a vassal. They should be a HRE member because their capital is in the HRE. We're also going to release Lyon Always nice to see them in the world. They should also be a HRE member. We'll also feed them a bit of land within Iberia. And now we'll release Portugal. Portugal's lost most of its cores, so we'll have to feed them the land manually. But yes, they're a member of the HRE. Perfect. We'll then just give them all of the territory that is rightfully Portuguese. And there we go. Isn't it beautiful? Portugal, Galicia, Leon, Aragon, Granada, they're all here. The only sad thing is we can't actually release Castile, because Castile has vanished essentially from the world when they formed Spain. Otherwise, what I would do is conquer Spain and release Castile. But alas, that's not an option. One thing I could start doing is actually just releasing these guys as independent nations. We don't really need them as vassals. I just want them to exist so they can add the land to the HRE in Iberia. And of course, once the land is added to the HRE, I don't really need to keep them around as a vassal. I could just let go of them and let them be independent until the HRE eventually unifies. And look at that, Granada went over and added its locations to the HRE now that we no longer need them to. Good old Granada, always keeping us guessing. All right, we're in position. Let's strike. Ooh, France. They're in a coalition against us, apparently. How odd. There wasn't, or at least I wasn't informed there was one. Coalition against Rome contains France and Spain. We should be able to talk the French down, I think. The main thing that's actually pushing them towards hating us outside of their antagonism is our hegemony status and the laws we've passed within the HRE. I guess we could give them something to make them a little happier. Send them a little gift. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. We should definitely take the diplomatic hegemony status that they have, although it will kind of backfire, right? Taking it will increase our hegemony status, which will make people like us even less. I suppose, actually, this might be a good opportunity. We'll pull France into the war and dismember them a little bit in order to weaken them further. It could definitely be a nice way to do things. We'll have to see. Are the French any stronger than last time we went to war with them? I somehow doubt it, but I suppose they do have 159,000 regulars. I think we'll clean up the Spanish first. I was thinking maybe we should use this war to take some land from Britain as well. Without even occupying Britain, we could say demand Cornwall or somewhere thereabouts from Britain, with Spain as the war leader. But France being in kind of throws a little bit of a spanner in the works in that regard. We'll have to see how things look. There goes the Holy Roman Emperor. His son is now on the throne, as he should be. That puts us on 40 imperial authority. To pass the final comfort policy, we need 75, so it's going to be a little while before we can pass that. This war with the Spanish has ended up being a little bigger than I thought it would be. More than 1 million men on their side, but I'm sure we can overcome them. These French troops do seem pretty strong. Their army is of higher quality than ours, apparently. I wonder. I haven't actually got this age's units. Yeah, it looks like they have this age's units. That's why they're ending up being stronger than us. I didn't feel a need to, so I hadn't rushed for hunters and musketeers. But even so, we're winning. It's just going to be a little bit of a heavier conflict than I thought it would be. But no matter. What I am curious about is the French manpower reserve. Can they sustain massive losses in this war? I mean, I can. Our manpower is very high and we have a high income, so it's very easy for us to replace any losses we take. But the French, I just don't know. Are they in a similar position? If not, they're definitely going to lose the conflict in that regard. Funnily enough, the person with the most soldiers at the moment is England. I doubt those soldiers will see action though, you know how England is. Oh, there goes the little ice age as well. Always nice to see the back of that. How willing is France to make peace right now? They're actually over the 10 we need. So what would we want from them? We could just go around and ask them to release a bunch of nations. Doing so wouldn't do immense damage to them, but it would result in more nations in the HRE, which is nice. We could always have them return land to existing HRE nations. That might be a better strategy and would weaken them better, maybe. We could have them return land to Normandy, who is our vassal as well, which would be nice for us. We could always force them to return Spanish land, I guess, but I'm not sure I like the idea of doing that. Maybe I think we'll just have them return a bunch of land to HRE members. We need to get a little bit more war score. Is there someone we could release alongside this? I guess we could release someone small and tiny, just for fun. I suppose if I really micromanaged it, I could force them to release land that I would then turn into free cities, but I'm a little too lazy to micromanage which nations they release to that degree. Ooh, Spain actually unconditionally surrendered. Did they reach 20? Yeah, they reached 20 war exhaustion. I did full occupy their nation, so it's not unsurprising. I guess we should think about making peace then. I did want to drag the war out so I could make all the demands of France I like, but let me just defeat the army here that's sieging this port. That will reduce some of their willingness to stay in the war, or it should have done. Must be sieging another fort somewhere. I guess they're sieging here, and they're taking that into account and being like, we're winning. We shouldn't make peace. Let's just let them siege that then. There we go. And now when we come to make peace, they're a lot more willing to do so. So I guess we'll let them keep some of their territory. I don't really like to. I'd like to take the full amount we can from them, but I guess we should make peace when the going's good. Literally millions of people dead and a little bit of land exchanging hands, just like real life. So now, because Spain has capitulated, we could demand whatever we want from them, including British territory. And I think I am going to demand some British territory, just so we get a foothold on the island for potential future conflict. Then we'll use the rest of the war score to just eat into Spain. I guess we'll take their African territory as well now. Not much reason to leave them with it. I am having to think a bit about how I want to divide up Spain's territory. I'm thinking we give the Castile region and of course the Leon region to Leon, and then we have 2 custom subjects managed Toledo and this other location here. And of course we give all of Andalusia to Granada. Sounds good to me. We'll make peace. We'll of course keep control of Cornwall here. I'm not even sure if we can get it into the HRE because of its distance. I mean, we may be able to because France has added the land on the other side. I'm not sure though. I think the HRE can only spread via a sea tile, so maybe it would have been smarter to take Kent since the HRE can spread over there. But, you know, rescuing Cornwall is something I can't really not do, right? So as discussed, we'll give Leon all of the territory in Leon, as well as all the land in Castile we've taken. Nice to see a big chunky Leon in the world, and then we'll release 2 custom subjects to manage those 2 extra territories. I guess we'll put members of the Palaiologos family in charge of them. That will strengthen the family within the HRE, which does give us a little bit of imperial authority, the power of our dynasty. The power of the dynasty, of course, stems from the amount of nations we control. We can see here Rome giving us the majority of our power, but getting a tiny 0.01 from Provence, who is also led by members of the Palaiologos family. Perfect. We also researched the extra forms or the newer forms of units in that war. We didn't use them, we won without them, but we can definitely upgrade now for those next wars to make things even easier for ourselves. We'll of course see about integrating Cornwall into the empire, but now that we have a border with Britain, we can always fabricate the old Restore Roman Borders CV on them. It does look like they've ended their alliance with Spain as well, so we could just attack Britain alone without the Spanish involvement. That would probably be a good use of our time. Speaking of which, let's upgrade all of our armies. I'm not sure how big they're going to be now. They might end up being too big, and I'll have to split them up a little. Let's see though. Nah, 62,000's fine, right? The only time I think I'd like to split them is if we end up above 100,000 men. So let's move back to the Middle East in preparation for our next conflicts there. There we've got enough imperial authority. We'll now pass integrated electors. We'll remove another 4 electors, bringing us down to just 1. I'm going to hazard a guess and say the final elector that will be left will be Bohemia, just because they're the strongest. Let's pass that. Once that's done, we'll have all of our imperial comfort policy. So it would just be a matter of unifying the HRE. It looks like one nation in the HRE has voted against integrated electors, and it is Bohemia. They hate the idea. Oh well, they're not powerful enough to stop the law passing. Let's see if I'm correct and they do end up being the only elector. Did I miscount? I see how it is. So this one reduces the amount of electors by 2, and then this one increases that 2 to 4. So this isn't an extra 2 removed, so we're left with 3 electors, of which Bohemia is 1. But yes, we have now reached the maximum level. Well, not the maximum level of comfort policies. There is another level beyond this, but there's no reason to get that many comfort policies. So we'll now start using our imperial authority to march down the path of unification. We need to be careful once we do the revoke the privilege. If we do revoke the privilege and people are unhappy, they will leave the empire. So once we pass improved imperial authority here, we'll likely hold off on passing revoke the privilege until we've gotten everyone's happiness up. We may end up having to wait depending on how unhappy everyone is, and considering this will also reduce their happiness by 50. In fact, I expect we'll have to wait. We may end up improving the diet system because that will increase happiness, and of course we'll be going on diplomatic offensives to bring everyone into line. It may take a while, especially with nations like France who, you know, we've just fought. They have quite a lot of antagonism towards us and they're unhappy with us because of all the laws we've passed. So we'll have to see how things go. There's definitely no problem with us just waiting waiting a little longer to unify the HRE, right? It's not like we're in a rush or anything. But now we're going to strike Morocco. The reason why I'm going for Morocco and not say Tunis or Mamluks is because Morocco is allied with both of them but doesn't have any other allies. Like if you look at the Mamluks, they got a bunch of allies, and I'd rather not deal with any hanger-ons. They'll just get in the way and cause trouble. So we'll declare war on just the nations we want to destroy. As discussed previously, this may be the final time we need to take land from the Mamluks. We should be able to get all of the Roman territory they control off them, and then we'll likely ignore them going forward. It doesn't really look like we're going to be able to do that with Tunis though. It looks like we'll need at least 2 more wars with Tunis to finish them off. But that's no matter really, since Tunis is very friendly with Morocco. They're likely going to get called into wars with us when we attack Morocco in the future anyway. There goes Egypt, their lands fully liberated. Rome's supremacy has returned to the region. Let no one think otherwise. Ooh, and there goes our Holy Roman Emperor. He didn't live very long, but then he was quite old when he came to the throne. His son, of course, takes the throne. Again, he's not that great. He's a little inferior to his father in most aspects, but he at least has multiple sons, unlike his father and grandfather, so we have some different heirs to pick from, and one that's a little better than the others. Alright, that's Tunis done. We're going to return the bit of land here in Italy they control back to the nation that has cause on it. We'll take the rest. We may just sell this bit of land to another nation in the region. But at the very least, it should only take 1 more war, I think, to take the last of the land that we need from Tunis. We'll have to see, of course. We can now turn our full attention to Morocco, and we'll have to see about how we eat them. They don't actually control that much land that's considered part of the Roman Empire. Still too much for us to take in a single war, likely, but I think 2 wars would be enough. And there we go, we'll end the Moroccan War. It's too bad there's no connection across to Spain here, or we could just walk over to Spain. Instead, we'll have to make the long, arduous journey back to Europe the other way. I guess we could transport by sea, but I'm kind of too lazy to do that, as you can probably guess. What to do next? Well, I think we're on truces with everybody relevant, so maybe we'll just chill out. The next target will likely be Hungary for the final war. They're currently getting eaten into though, so I might need to go to war with this little nation here next to them. Oh, Hungary just lost a bunch of territory, didn't they? Yeah, they did. So we'll need to go to war with this tiny nation here as well to get the little bit of Carpathia we want. Unfortunately, they're allied with Bohemia, and it's not a big deal fighting Bohemia, but I do want to avoid antagonizing them any further, right? As we're going to need to start working on bringing the various members of the HRE round into liking us so that we can unify the HRE without them all leaving. Okay, we're now going to pass improved imperial authority. This should be the last thing we have to pass that decreases relationship with imperial members. We've actually managed to do quite a bit to improve the relations with the members. So as I said, this will be the final law that upsets them. I have noticed that passing those laws that removed the electors has really upset them. We can see we got minus 190 for removing Brandenburg's electorship, but I'm sure we can overcome it. If we do need to, we can always just throw money at them to increase their relationship. There we go, improved imperial authority is online. Now we just need the 165 imperial authority to unify the HRE. Of course, as I mentioned, we need to keep an eye on the happiness of the members. We don't want to end up in a situation where someone leaves the HRE because we attempt to unify it too quickly. Now we're going to attack Hungary. France is in a coalition with Hungary against us, and I think this may be the final time we get to go to war with France, so we'll use this to cut them down even further. Should we do that? Maybe we should just do nothing to France and leave them be. I suppose as long as we don't do anything to gain antagonism with them, it shouldn't be too bad, right? So if we just have them release territory, there shouldn't be any problems. So I think it should be fine. Let's declare war on Hungary. That'll call in France, and we can cut them down to size. Perhaps for the final time. I know it's sad to say, but it could be after this. There won't be a France to cut down. Once we unify the HRE itself, we'll send one of our armies to deal with the Hungarians. We shouldn't need more. And then we'll use the rest to fight the French. It doesn't really look like the French have recovered from that war with us. They've only got 38,000 regulars at the moment. And since our regulars are now upgraded, as opposed to how they were before, I really don't see how they could stop us, really. Alright, there's France defeated. They really didn't pose much of a threat. We'll just release a bunch of random people. Doesn't really matter who. And with that, we'll also annex Hungary, fully eliminating them from the game. Something that's quite rare to see due to, or actually, is it a little too expensive for me to fully annex Hungary? It looks like it. This one location, probably because it's a gold mine, is a little too valuable. It costs 15 war score to take this one location. Maybe we should leave them with just this one location. There's a good chance that the neighbors would attack and destroy them though. So instead, let's leave them with a little territory a little further back. So they're safely surrounded by us, for their own protection of course. Next, I think it's time that we finally make our way onto Britain. We're going to transport most of our army over here to Cornwall. We should just be able to defeat the British straight up in a fight. It'll be a little awkward if I transport all my soldiers over and actually the British are stronger than us or something like that happens. But let's have a little faith. We'll move everybody over. All right, we're in position. Britain has ended its friendship with Spain, but they've gained a new friend, Bohemia, which is a little bit inconvenient. I haven't positioned anyone to actually fight Bohemia. I'm going all in on England. The hope is my vassals can at least distract them, keep them busy. We might just surrender to Bohemia in order to get them out of the war. But for now, let's go for the British. We haven't really fought a war against Britain, so I'm curious to see, do they have any real strength, or will we just roll right over them? Unsurprisingly, it looks like the answer is we're going to roll right over them. Thinking about it, maybe I should have positioned some troops to fight Bohemia, because we could have forced them to release a bunch of the nations they have trapped within them, which probably would have been a good use of our time. A little too late now, though. I'm not sure we'll be able to get home during the war due to the large British Navy, and I'm a little too hesitant to throw my 100 heavy ships at them. There's London taken. All these precious works of art have been transferred to Constantinople, a much better place to store them than London. Works of art should themselves reside within a work of art after all. As discussed, we'll just let Bohemia humiliate us to bring the war with them to a close. We don't want them dragging down our war score. We really want to take the maximum we can from Britain, really bring them low. All right, let's bring this war to a close. I think we'll grab London, and maybe just southern England in general, something like this. And well, I actually just had a thought. Could we get England into the HRE? If we say took London, I don't know, I haven't experimented with how the AI acts in this game. If we take London, add it to the HRE and give it back to Britain, will Britain move its capital to London? I don't know, I haven't experimented. Should we try it? It's kind of tempting to want to try. Although, does Britain hate us? Because that will be important as well, right? I mean, they don't really hate us. Their antagonism's actually pretty low. It's going to go up if we take London, though. The fact that we've declared war on them and we are at war is what's really making them not like us. Also, we're competing great powers. I don't know. You know what? I'm going to make a save, and then I'm going to test it on my own time. For now, we're going to act like they wouldn't join the HRE, so we'll just play as normal. We'll take London and the south of England. It's funny how little antagonism we get for taking this land. The person that takes the most offense is Hungary, and that's because they already have a lot of antagonism with us. So we'll just take the southern coast. Nice to see the Roman Empire name stretching along England's southern coast. And there, we've reached the game's final age, the Age of Revolutions. I really do feel like I've taken a little bit too long to form the HRE. We're going all the way up to the end date, or close there too. It's not my fault entirely though, after all, the HRE was mismanaged by the previous emperors before we came in, and I had to pass a lot of laws just to get things back to the start point, as it were. For this era, we're actually going to take diplomatic, just so we can get the postal service here, which reduces the proximity cost through roads by 2. Since we're the Roman Empire, we already have a modifier here, all roads lead to Rome, which decreases the proximity cost through roads by 2 already. So that will give us another 2, which means once we research railways, the proximity cost through roads will be 1. We can already see it if we look at the proximity cost. We can see the modern road, it normally gives 30, but due to the Roman advancement, it's 32. And since the railway gives 35, then plus the 4 from this advancement and the Roman one, that'll put it up to 39, reducing the cost to 1, which can then be further modified by proximity efficiency, which will likely result in all of the land-based proximity cost being like 0.5, maybe even lower. So we'll definitely go diplomatic for this time round. Not that it really matters so late in the game, right? At this point, there's really no benefit to increasing our proximity spread further and making more money, but we'll do it anyway. It's the only thing we know to do. Right, I've been steadily increasing everyone's relationship, but we still have quite a few people who are unhappy in the HRE. 80 of this is due to me being a hegemony. I can shave off 40 from dropping 2 hegemonies, but I need to bring these numbers down. One of the things I want to do right now is we're going to pass the early Imperial Diet, which will give us 25 with everybody. It will cost us some Imperial authority, but we're getting close to the max anyway, so we might as well spend it. Right, there's the early Imperial Diet passed. We can see that buffs up everyone's relationship by 25. Still need to bring people lower though. Shared borders are a thing that's coming up a little. For the nations that it is, I can just freely release land near them to defeat that modifier, so we can kind of ignore that. It'd be funny if I didn't actually have to do this. Last time I unified the HRE was on an earlier version where you had to make everyone happy or they just wouldn't join. It'd be funny if they patched that and I didn't notice. Right, we've done it. Pretty much everyone in the HRE likes us now, or at least has positive relationships with us. We just need the Imperial Authority to unify the HRE, which is going to take a little bit of waiting, but I think I'll leave that for next episode, for what will likely be the final episode. For now, I hope you did enjoy this video, though I feel like not a lot happened after a point because I was desperately trying to improve relationships with everybody. But either way, I'll thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.